Hello, and welcome to Threads from the Wheel. I'm Monica. This is my sister Heather, and we're going to be reviewing last week's episode of The Wheel of Time, Blood Calls Blood. So, overall impression.
Oh my goodness. Every episode is just, oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I really like this one too.
The opening was hard to see.
Yeah.
It was tough, but
Yeah.
it gave you a little bit more insight into the world and how they deal, the customs, how they deal with their dead, how they mourn, all of that.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely an information-packed episode.
the scenery is amazing.
Yes. Yes, I love the way
Absolutely
they're portraying the
gorgeous.
White Tower.
I'm just talking about the fly-in, into the scene coming in, and as you see the landscape. The White Tower's amazing. I want to go spend about 6 days just touching everything in the White Tower. That would probably get me into a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Maybe if you were a novice, it would be okay. Or some initiate.
Well, the white, I might get pass.
You mean blend?
Same thing. Same thing.
So yeah, about that, the funeral scene, that's straight from the books, or at least that's the Shienaran way. That Shinar is one of the Borderlands. The full quote is, may you shelter in the palm of the Creator's hand, and the last embrace of the mother welcome you home. But I thought it was really cool that they included it. And did you notice it looked like he popped the stone out of the ring?
I was going to ask about that. It's in my notes because there was no stone when they get to the tower and he returns the ring. There was no stone there, and they showed it around his neck before that, and there was no stone in it. It looked like he had popped it.
When he's when he goes over to the body, he makes some little motion, like maybe that's when he popped it out. And I think
so.
He buried it with her.
That's possible.
Because immediately after that, when he puts the necklace back on, there's no stone.
Look like a stone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what happened to it. But yeah, that was a powerful scene for sure.
Stefan is just, if you had any question about the bond between the warder and the Aes Sedai, that clarifies it for you.
Yeah, I was really hoping he was going to pull through, but
after that burial scene, I knew exactly what we were going to see with the funeral from the trailer with Lan and Moiraine. I knew that would be what that was, and it didn't make seeing it any easier.
There's one Aes Sedai in the books, Marana. She's a green, and she's had some experience, some success with bonding warders who've lost their Aes Sedai and helping them through. So it's not an insurmountable grief. Yeah, very few survive their Aes Sedai's death for long. So we get Moiraine and Lan on the road coming up to the White Tower.
Either they're there and we'll find them, or we'll find them.
Yeah, or they're not there and we'll find them.
Yep.
Yeah. And Rand and Mat walking into Tar Valon, and thank God they pronounced Tar Valon correctly. It drives me nuts. In the audiobooks, they always say Tar Valon. And every time they say, I'm like, Valon, it's Tar Valon, get it right. There is a dictionary in the back of every one of those books, complete with pronunciation guides. Use them.
That's good to know for
Mhm.
my next planned foray.
Oh, and speaking of the books, a friend of mine from work said that she was starting in on the series, and she's like, "Oh, I'm still on Moraine's backstory." I'm like, "No, not New Spring, not New Spring." That's the prequel, and it's Moraine's origin story, basically. Um, you really should start with Eye of the World because it starts you off in the same lack of knowledge about Moraine Sedai as the Emmonsfield Five are at. They don't know if they can trust her or not. They don't know what she's up to, what her ulterior motives are. They don't know anything. And it gives you too much information in New Spring um, to really see it from their angle uh, once you get into Eye of the World. So yeah. Um, Rand looking around saying, "Blood and ashes." I howled because that is one of the swears, quote unquote, in
Yeah,
the Wheel of
I
Time.
have that in my notes. First book swear.
Yes. And typically it's not that is the one saying it. If it's
Well,
not blood and ashes, it's blood and bloody ashes.
it had to be kind of a mind-blowing experience for them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't think any of them had been out of
No.
the
No.
Two Rivers area their whole lives.
No.
But Rand, before that, had recognized the mountain behind the tower.
That he's never been to or
Yeah.
seen or anything. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
another check in my theory matrix.
Okay. Okay. Um, so Mat is getting sicker and sicker.
Snapped at the little boy coming into town.
Yeah. Yeah.
The paranoia is
Yeah.
killing him.
Yeah. They're rearranging a lot of stuff. In the books, they were headed to Cainlan, which is the capital of Andor. And that's where Tom said, there's this inn that the owner's a good friend of mine. Go there, he'll help you out. And it was the Queen's blessing. So when Rand mentioned that Tom mentioned this inn that they should go to, I'm like, yay, Basil Gill! Except we don't get to see Basil Gill. But that's okay.
Oh, we did get a new character.
Yes, we got Loyal. I knew they were going to make him too short. I knew that they were going to make him and the Trollocs too damn short. They're supposed to be like 14 feet tall.
Well,
Yeah.
From a practical effect standpoint.
Exactly. That's why
difficult.
I knew that they weren't going to do it that accurately. But the dialogue from Loyal, that is, yes.
When he first opened his mouth, I'm like, is that the dude that played Worf? He sounded like Worf.
Yeah, I hear it.
First. I looked it up. It's not. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was great.
So then we see Moraine basically dump Nynaeve off in the warder's quarters.
Be like, hiding her.
Yes. And she's like, stay here. This is the safest place for you to avoid all of them. And then
just from what we've seen of the red Aes Sedai woman, I can't imagine.
Liandrin.
That's it. Liandrin. Sorry. I'm doing good to know what I know.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can imagine when I first started watching Game of Thrones, trying to keep up with no.
Luckily, I had started the books
in
between the first and second season, so that helped with Game of Thrones.
Well,
but yeah,
Ron had read the books, or at least some of them at that point, and so I'd be like, well, who's such and so, and who's that one, and he'd fill me in. So then we're off to Perrin and Egwene with the Tinkers again, and the White Cloaks.
Oh,
Yeah. hmm
visceral reaction to that
Yeah.
man.
Valda. Aemon Valda.
Child Valda.
He's a child, all right.
There's not,
Uh,
there's no light in that man.
no. Um,
He uses the light as a shield for his black heart.
and Aram's comment that white cloaks are bastards, but they won't kill a Tuathalan. Are you really so damn sure about that, kid? I'm not.
I wouldn't put that past that
No, not
Valda
Valda.
man at all. I mean,
Mm-mm.
he said it to Egwene.
Yeah. So then we get the procession of Logain through the streets of Tarvalon. Did you notice the fellow in the background?
He whistled and they showed his hand and sleeve as Mat and Rand are going into the inn.
I missed
Yes.
that one.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I only saw him at, during the parade. So to
No,
speak.
he was in the parade as well, off to the side in the
Yeah.
parade.
Yeah.
Padden Fane?
Yep. Padan Fane. Yep. So yeah, him
Yeah,
giggling and I'm like, oh God, he's back.
Yeah, he's been stalking them since the Two Rivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Convinced
And
that's how the Fade was able to catch up with him so quickly.
we'll get more information, hopefully soon-ish, or at least by the end of the first season, assuming that they follow more or less to the first book. We should know more about Padan Fane by the end of season 1. And then Logain in his mad cackling laughter.
That actor is awesome.
Yes, he is doing a very good Logain.
And you believe he is crazy and powerful, or was powerful before the.
Yeah. And then Mat making Rand promise to kill him if he can channel. Yeah, that was a rough scene.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, if any of the three of no. Mm-mm. I would reach into the screen and slap Rafe Judkins.
Twice.
Yes.
Once for me.
Oh, okay.
For me, and this is for Heather.
Yep. So then, we're back to Stepan in the tower being dressed. Because he just doesn't have the will. I think truly the only thing that was keeping him going is getting that ring back to the tower. And that was it.
Hearing his backstory and how he met his Aes Sedai, he had to be worthy of her.
Yeah, Karina.
That was, you're just sitting there gobsmacked.
Yeah.
At that.
Yeah, and that's a common way that the warders view their Aes Sedai. It's both proud and protective, and yeah. I love when he said that he tried to talk her out of it, but then she rolled her eyes at me, and that was that. So then we're back to the White Cloak encampment.
Mm.
Yeah. I like that they included, Valda, someone at least, saying that the hand waving isn't necessary. But it is very common, especially among the Aes Sedai. There are other women in this world who can channel that did not go to the tower. They had their own training programs in their own countries. But most of the Westlands or Randland,
Randland?
I've heard some people online call it that. Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, don't need a bigger head. But pretty much everyone there goes to the tower if they want to be trained, or if they even know that they have the potential. But over the centuries, fewer and fewer want to go, much less actually make the trip, just because of the bad publicity that Aes Sedai have earned for themselves. The whole duplicitous bit. Questioners are always so certain before they begin. It's like the Spanish Inquisition. They already know the answer. And why on earth he decided that Egwene could channel just because she's female? Or did he ask around in the Two Rivers and find out that Moiraine was Aes Sedai? That's the only thing that makes any sense to me at all.
Well, he said that the light had sent them back to him for the second time.
An excuse.
An excuse. But that type of character, just, they know everything.
Yeah.
You know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right. Even if I'm wrong, I'm right.
Yeah. Yeah. A very White Cloak attitude. Mm-hmm. They aren't all like Valda.
Well, no, they showed the first guy that when they first run into the White Cloaks, the first man was actually a gentleman, but Valda was a jackass from the get-go.
Yeah. That first guy, I think he's supposed to be Dane Bornhald, who is described as a grandfatherly type. He's much more common of a personality, I guess, among the White Cloaks. It's really just the questioners who are like Valda. They are absolute sadists. And I think if someone was not a sadist, they would not make it as a questioner, not for long anyway.
Well, Valda enjoyed every second of what he was doing. Cutting, flaying Perrin's back. And did you see that Perrin's eyes changed color?
Yeah. Yeah. And in the books, when they are captured, Perrin actually kills two of the White Cloaks. And why on earth they couldn't have made that part of his tragic TM backstory, as far as why he's all angsty and whatnot. I don't know. I still don't agree with them killing off Layla. Especially when she didn't exist in the first place. But
easier to relate to that. Somebody like me who's not touched one of the books. Yeah, I think it would be easier to relate his pain and his guilt.
Yeah, he was.
If he killed a wife versus some jerk in a white cloak.
Yeah.
Or a couple of white cloak jerks. But Egwene is crafty.
Yes. It's so strong-willed. Yeah. That is one of her dominating personality traits. But yeah, what Valda said about humans weren't meant to wield that kind of power. It's like, but some people are just born with a spark. They don't choose to, they're just going to. So either he doesn't know that or he doesn't care. Or he's found some way to square that circle.
I don't think he cares. I think it's just women are witches and we got to snuff them out.
Almost like the reverse of a red sister.
Woman haters and man haters should get together and kick each other's butts. I think that'd be funny.
Ooh, Liandrin versus Valda. I don't know who to root for.
Put that on pay-per-view. I'm watching it.
Speaking of Liandrin, during the procession, she got hit with a radish.
That line made me laugh. That was well deserved.
Oh yes,
well deserved.
More than, yeah. Going back to Valda, him just admitting flat out to premeditated murder, that's not very White Cloak-esque. They're usually more manipulative, less straightforward. So I thought that was kind of odd, but he more or less admitted he's evil.
Well, Valda is odd, and he doesn't care. He does not give a rat's tiny behind about anything other than ruining the day for some women and a couple of men who happen to be their protectors.
Yeah.
That's his jam.
Yeah. And then we have Nynaeve and Liandrin out in the hallway.
Liandrin's jaw is large and strong, and I want to see it get broken. And I think Nynaeve is the woman to do it.
Ooh. I would pay to see that.
Get her mad, let her lose her temper, break her jaw, and then she can heal her.
You're assuming she would.
She can, doesn't mean she has to.
Yeah, exactly. That is no part of the 3 oaks. So then Loial goes out and finds Nynaeve.
Well, Liandrin did send her into the garden.
Yeah, but she couldn't have known about Loial.
No. And I don't think she had any clue that Mat and Rand were there, or she'd have had them trussed up in the tower. Lickety split. So.
Yeah. But Nynaeve's story about Egwene having breakbone fever, in the books, that was the first time she channeled. And it's for someone who's born with a spark, there's a certain moment in your life where you want something more than you have ever wanted anything else. And you're willing to reach out to anything that will grant it to you. And that's the first touching of the true source. Nynaeve was an apprentice wisdom at the time. What she did not know was that the wisdom had everything well in hand. And even though Egwene was in pure agony, the wisdom already knew she was going to be okay. But Nynaeve didn't know that. And so she was just in anguish watching this little kid go through this. And that was her one moment. And that's why she has to be angry before she can wield the one power. It's the waste of life. A person should die old in their beds, not
a 10-year-old with break bone feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a warder with his throat slit open. And that's what drives her to channel.
Is that also why she knew for sure that Egwene was still alive? Is there a potential connection there because she healed her?
Well, it looks like what they're going with in the show is that healing Lan was her first experience with it. And in the books, that does allow her to, know where certain people are that she's healed like that, but only within a certain radius. So if she was too far away, Nynaeve wouldn't be able to sense her.
Well, it didn't look
I
like
think
the White Cloaks camp was too far from the White Tower, so I don't know.
But it could just be she's just acting certain to make other people certain.
I did like their conversation. It was nice to see them together.
Yeah, we hadn't really seen Rand and Nynaeve interact.
Well, I mean, they couldn't once the Trolloc got a hold of her.
Well, yeah, they were in Shadar Logoth together for like a heartbeat. That's really the only. No.
Nynaeve, no, she shows up after.
Right. Well, in the books, she doesn't get kidnapped in the first place, so she was with them in Shadar Logoth. And now I'm getting my wires crossed. So back in the White Cloak encampment, Perrin. Oh well, Egwene, she'd ate that tiny little ball of fire, and it just sort of
didn't even singe the cloak or vest, whatever the heck.
Yeah. I'm like, either that was a very weak weave, or you have some sort of ter'angreal, an object that uses the one power to do usually a specific task. But yeah, or it could just have been a distraction for when
it looked like it was a distraction because Perrin's ropes caught fire just after that, and he kind of wolfed out.
Yeah. Splitting your weave like that is well beyond what she should be able to do at this point. At least knowingly.
Moraine did tell her that the wind would listen to her.
Yeah, that's something new. I don't understand what she meant by that.
I took that as she would be powerful, very powerful.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I took from that. And that little misdirection was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And then the wolves.
Yes. But Valda saying, "Light, protect me." I'm like, light.
The light don't know you. The light has never seen you.
No. Yeah, and the wolves, that was really cool.
Part of me hopes that Valda's not dead in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't get enough.
Yeah.
It was too quick.
Yeah.
But part of me also hopes that he's dead because I don't like him. But I need to see him go painfully.
We don't get Valda in the books till much later on in the series. So I don't know what they're going to do with him. And it didn't look like a fatal wound.
No,
So
didn't.
We'll see.
The last wolf seemed to
Yeah.
be telling Perrin either get out of here, we got this, or it took you dang long enough, go. I'm not sure which one he was going for, but
Mm-hmm.
those were the impressions I got.
Yeah, that was a cool scene. Yeah. Um,
I did call it.
yes. Yes. And I'm looking around which one's Hopper. Because we get the names of the wolves in the
Oh,
book.
okay.
And Perrin becomes real close with one named Hopper. But then we have Liandrin and Moiraine in the tower. That was a creepy scene with Liandrin stroking Moraine's chin like that. I'm like, yeah, keep your hands to yourself, woman.
Oh, the sheer cattiness.
Yes.
Oh. And the
Yeah.
veiled threats.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be here to protect her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. um, and then we have Lan and Stepan praying. Stepan is making an offering to ward off Ishamael.
Forsaken statues.
Yes, and that's Ember Eyes.
Okay.
At least in the books, it is.
Okay.
And I was looking at the little figurines trying to figure out who all is who. The only one that had any identifying characteristic was the one third from the right. He had what looked like a guitar, so that makes him Asmodean, because he sold his soul away because he wanted forever to compose music. Yeah.
There are worse things to trade your soul for, I guess.
But all of the things he would have had to have done to become one of the Forsaken, okay, so there are Aes Sedai who turned to the Shadow back during the War of the Shadow, and they became known as Dreadlords. The 13 most powerful Dreadlords were nicknamed the Forsaken. So not only have you turned to the dark side, you've gone full on Emperor Palpatine level to get it into the Forsaken Club. So he comes across as a softie, but he can't be.
No.
Um,
the scene where Stepan is dressing for the ring ceremony, I guess is what you call it. You see those little statues in the background, and they caught my eye, and I wondered about it. And then later in the episode, he actually talks about it, so it made sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, in the books, this is what the rings look like.
Yeah.
Except they're gold.
Yeah.
So that clunky thing, I'm still getting used to it.
I want one. My brain has gone, can I make that in beads?
You would have thought that if Amazon didn't figure it out, Rafe would have told them, if you're going to do merchandise, that's going to be a big thing. They would have put more style, more, I don't know, what's something that someone would actually want to wear when designing it.
Wear it.
Sorry, I think they're gaudy.
I actually know where that word comes from, and I don't have a problem with it.
But I thought it was interesting that he put it in that ring of molten gold. That I assume that they're going to reforge new rings from.
It felt
The-
like a nod to Lord of the Rings,
Mm,
or the ring had to return to its source. To me, that's what I got from that scene. And the landscape and the scenery in that scene was,
yeah. Um, so Moraine and Alana chit-chatting, talking about how powerful Leandrin is. And I'm starting to wonder if they've combined Leandrin and Elida, another Red sister from the books. That's going to make for some interesting choices if they have, because the two of them have very different paths. But we'll see.
when Leandrin and Moraine were talking, Leandrin basically explains why she's like she is.
Yeah.
Men aren't always kind to little girls
Hmm.
who show signs of being greater than them.
Yeah.
I still don't feel sorry for her.
No, no, no. In the books, I think she's from Arafel, which is one of the borderlands. Most of the borderlands are very Aes Sedai are venerated in the borderlands, and women are well respected in the borderlands. So that doesn't fit with what I know of, assuming I'm right and she's Arafellan. But I could be wrong on that. And Moraine makes the comment about there might be a way to release the bond. With as much pain as was in her face during this episode, it's not surprising.
Yeah, it felt like she was hinting at trying to release Lan's bond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Stepan and Lan have their tea, and Stepan drugs him.
Oh, previous scene,
Mm-hmm.
when they're talking in the room, the green Aja,
Alana.
Alana, says something about the room being
There.
bare, but Moraine goes to the fireplace and opens the frame, and it's a picture.
I couldn't make out what it was either.
It almost looked like it was a woman in blue standing in front of someone else, almost like the ceremony where the Aes Sedai are made full sisters or whatever, however that would be called. I don't
After
know.
their testing. I have no idea.
Just that one little personal touch in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's convenient that these Aes Sedai are always wearing their Aja colors. It makes picking them out a lot easier. And I wondered about the women who were all in white with the white ribbons around their forearms. They might be white Aja. I don't know.
In the procession?
They were in the procession, but they were also in the tower.
The ones I saw in the procession looked really young, and I took them to be novices.
Could be because novices do wear white. on the other hand, novices are very rarely allowed out of the tower. So unless that procession just met them at the gates of Tar Valon, and marched back into the city with them, yeah, they would not have been out on the hunt for Logain.
Right.
So
I wasn't sure that. I defer to the expert.
yeah. Well, the ribbons around the arms aren't something from the books, so I didn't really know what to make of it. But yeah, and then we have Stepin's funeral, and Lan screaming his lungs out. That
Well,
was
the man did tell him to touch Stefan and relieve us of our grief, and he was the chief mourner. And yeah, I don't know how much of that was chief mourner or how much of that was actually him feeling that.
In the books, he's not particularly close with any of the other warders. At the same time, it could also be a matter of, this could be me one day. I might one day lose Moiraine. And that fear and grief. And it could also just be, like you said, chief mourner. But the tears going down Moiraine's face.
It was a powerful scene, and it went a long way for world building. Yeah. Because I mean, if we needed another slap in the face of the bond between the Aes Sedai and the Warder, that was the hardest one yet. Yeah, and that is very true to the books, about how intense that relationship is. Because part of it is also that they are empathic with each other. Yeah. And we've had this empathic relation for who knows how many decades. And then they just up and die. That would be rough on anyone. So yeah, it was probably my favorite episode so far. From an action standpoint, you had that. From a world building standpoint, you had that. From character development, I mean, you got to see better and more. The first actually interaction between Nynaeve and Rand and Mat. Yeah, she didn't talk with Mat at all before. No, they were too busy doing the women's ceremony. Right. And then Mat was gambling and drinking because he's Mat, and that's what he does. And he drinks and he gambles. The women's ceremony took place, and then and then she was kidnapped. Yeah. But I guess that does it for us in this episode. If anyone watching wants to reach out to us, you can do that at threadsofthewheel@gmail.com. And so long till next week. Click like and subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff is. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. Tell us what stood out for you or what you didn't like. Yeah. All righty. See y'all next Tuesday.